Hey, Scott from Arista.
Oh, that's going in for sure.
Hey, Scott from Aristocop.com here.
And Seth from SethMarkwood.com.
Together, the three of us, that's you and Boy and me, we are Markwood Men's Breakfast Club. Yeah, I felt the need to explain it again.
Yeah.
Welcome once again. Good morning, Boy.
Good morning, Homer. How are you?
Besides my bad morning experience, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent. Today we're smoking McBaron Dark Twist Roll Cake. I'm not even going to ask.
Some of us are.
Dark Twist Roll Cake by, by Po' Boy Jelly.
Right.
Sent to us. For Tobacco Advent. What are you smoking?
A Brendan's Choice.
Oh, great. Out of the official
Brendan's
Choice
yes,
tub?
I am.
Excellent.
I am. I'll put it down here in a second.
If things look different this week, we're trying something new. For the next few weeks, we're going to be using a new camera, specifically an iPhone camera, to film our videos. We did a test run the last couple weeks and think that the video quality might increase. The audio quality doesn't seem to decrease, which is about all we can hope for. And so if things look different, that's why.
They do look different, don't they?
Give us your feedback. Yeah, as Homer pointed out, we are probably in higher definition, which doesn't look good on us, but hopefully you can see things a little bit more clearly.
I told Boy, it reminds me of when high-definition television came out and all the old newscasters suddenly had to go out and get their facelifts and lots more makeup and more professional makeup, because it definitely is different, but it's all right. It's a lot easier, I know, because I shoot every video for my channel on my phone, on an iPhone. So it's pretty convenient when you can take it from that device and immediately send it to YouTube and just send it straight. I hardly ever edit anything.
Well, same for our videos here. There's no editing that takes place, but except for putting on the beginning and the end. But with the iPhone, it will be nice because I can airdrop it, or send it wirelessly directly to my computer, lickety-split over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So I won't have to hook up and make sure there's power charged and all sorts of stuff.
What have we been filming on?
Well, we've been filming on an old, I don't know, Sony Handycam.
Anxious.
Sony Handycam's old. We've addressed this before. You know, we haven't looked into purchasing new equipment for the show because the show doesn't make money, and that's all right. That's not what it's here for. But I've got this in my pocket, upgraded to the new iPhone XS Max a few months ago. It's got a killer camera. And so I thought, well, we'll give it a shot.
What makes it a Max?
The Max is because it is large, I think.
But you don't consider this a phablet, right? It's not. You can still put it in your shirt pocket?
Yeah, so, I mean, some people, it is a phablet to some people. It's the largest phone. I think it's got the largest dimension, or like second or third largest dimension of any phone available right now.
Well,
you could get something larger if you needed to. I don't need to, but it's the largest phone the iPhone makes right now. And the screen goes from edge to edge, top to bottom. So the whole front of the phone is a screen. It's the same size as my old phone, my 6XS Plus. But this is, that had a large bezel all the way around. This does not.
Oh, so this is edge to edge.
Yeah.
Touchable screen.
One of the nice things about the camera is it's like the top 1 or 2 camera in terms of pixel density. It also has a physical second camera in the phone, which allows for 2 times optical zoom. And the digital zoom is phenomenal. In doing some sightseeing, have done up to 10 time optical zoom, and you can barely see the fuzz that you get normally with a standard optical zoom, or digital zoom rather.
So you're back from your European trip. I want to hear your best stories, but before we do that, I got some griping to do.
Okay.
I head out of the house today, kind of groggy, right? So I thought, for sure, I'm going to go to a drive-through, get some coffee. I was 35 years before I even started drinking coffee, and it's taken a number of years to get to where I can enjoy good coffee, and then for the last several years, I can just pretty much drink coffee, and it can be bad coffee, and I can drink it because I've had enough of it. And McDonald's coffee is fine for me, but I saw a sign saying that Hardee's, aka Carl's Jr., has some new coffee, and they were promoting it. Sign out front says $1. I'll go through Hardee's, get some coffee. Mm-hmm. So I go through Hardee's, pull through the drive-through, and I said, "Yeah, I just need a large black coffee, please." "Sorry, sir, we don't have any coffee." "Okay, thanks." So I'm on to McDonald's. I go to McDonald's, and there are cars wrapped around the building, and then they have the 2 lanes. Each of the lanes are just packed full. And I thought, all right, skip a McDonald's. And then I realized, wait, there's nobody inside. So I pull up to the very first space, like right next to the handicap space. It was wide open, nobody there. I go inside, there's nobody at the counter. They're all hustling, bustling, dealing with the window. And I thought, all right, I'll go to their kiosk. They have that electronic kiosk now, touch screen. You can select what you want.
The one with the poop on it.
What?
I went to a McDonald's for the first time, inside a McDonald's with a kiosk for the first time just a couple days ago. And saw the kiosk and was talking to somebody about it, and they said, yeah, Consumer Reports or 2020 or some Dateline, I don't know, some channel did a report on those, and they found something like 95% of those touchscreen kiosks have fecal matter.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So, what you meant to say is you used the touchscreen for the last time in your life ever. Go ahead.
So I step up to the poop screen.
No, poop screen is something different. We don't have time to get into that today.
Okay. I selected a large black coffee. It prints out my receipt, and I stand there at the front counter, where I am ignored for 10 minutes. I mean, literally, there was not a single person on either side of the counter besides me, and they're all focused 100% on the drive-thru. I get it; those people technically were ahead of me, right? Finally, some guy who looked like he just came in from finishing his joint walks up with a mop bucket from the back room, and he kind of says my number. Yeah, you 293? Yeah. So he sneaks around the corner and is working on something, and then I hear the manager telling him, go up to the 3rd window and hand this to a customer. So he's gone at that point. And finally the manager looks over, he sees that I'm standing there, he sees the to-go order. There's one to-go order, a cup of coffee, right? So he goes around the corner and says, hand me that coffee. And I hear the gal at the drive-thru say something to him. I wasn't sure what she said,
right.
All right? But he says, just give me the coffee. So she hands him this large cup of coffee, and I leave. How do I drink my coffee? I drink my coffee black. Can you witness that for me?
Oh, man. You got chocolate milk there.
So thankfully, I don't think there's sugar in this. There's most definitely cream, which isn't the way I drink my coffee, but as long as there's no sugar, I'm okay. But all I just wanted was a cup of coffee, and it took me 2 drive-thrus.
And was that from this morning?
No, it was
or just
moments ago. Just moments ago. Yeah, and it's fine. I mean, coffee with cream, if I'm going to drink it with anything, I'll put cream in it. If it's like a really, really dark roast, I don't care for Starbucks coffee, but if I have to, and if I can't get their nitro cold brew, then I'll put cream in their coffee. Gotcha. So it's not terrible, but I'm grumpy.
Yeah. Fix that. Turn that frown upside down, they say.
A big frown. Anyway, welcome home.
Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed your trip.
Thank you. 2 things to note about the new camera situation while we get this figured out. 1, I wish you guys could see our setup because we have our old camera pointing at the phone screen so that we can use it as a monitor because we're using the good camera on the phone, so we can't see ourselves, so we have no idea how we look. But that means we will be tempted to look there and not here. So if we're not looking at our camera, sorry about it. Second is, I'm also interested to see how well this camera handles smoke and depth autofocus.
Can you lock in?
I don't think so. I don't know. After this video, I'll double check and see. I think it was fine on the test runs that we did, but that's something that we might have to play with.
So I'm looking at cameras right now because I want to do some videos in my shop, and I don't know what to get. What I do know is I don't like the wide angle and the distorted lens that you get from things like GoPros and others that are designed for capturing lots and lots of action all around. I need something, closer to this.
Right.
And I don't mind my phone, except for my phone's got some weird audio issue going on right now. So I'd love your input. If you've got a recommendation for a camera, I see all the guys that do the vlogging that are trying to copy Casey Neistat, they spend thousands of dollars, put it on a long, you've seen Pat Flynn's new product, which I don't like. It's missing an articulated knuckle. So when you open that thing up as a tripod, it's locked in at that angle unless you add a knuckle to it.
Which could be done.
Which
easily.
I guarantee you folks will be doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, my mind is blown. These guys will get on their skateboards, their bikes, they'll be jogging, and they'll be holding what is basically the old 35 millimeter camera body out in front of them at arm's length. It seems so unnecessary.
35-pound.
It seems so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Love your input. All right. Tell us about your trip.
So, I was gone for 12 days. Went to Ireland. In Ireland, was in Dublin. Had a chance to visit some sites for my job there. I was in, had the opportunity to drive, rented a car and drove from Dublin to Belfast, which is in Northern Ireland.
And which
are not the
what's
same.
unique about that, about driving in Ireland?
So driving in, well, there are a few things that are unique. Driving in Ireland you're driving on the right side of the car, and you're driving on the left side of the road, and there are a ton of roundabouts, so figuring out European roundabouts is tricky because you have to turn left. It's really, really
Going
smart.
Clockwise,
you have to go, you go left. They're being used at interchanges between like highways. So where we would have an on-ramp and an off-ramp, it's used the roundabout is used in those situations. And instead of having, basically the lane that you choose to be in dictates where you're planning to get off of the roundabout. So if you're going to be turning to the right, which is 3 exits on the roundabout, because you're driving left, remember, you would start in the right-hand lane, you enter the roundabout, you drive past the first exit,
so you're hugging the center of the roundabout.
You're hugging the center, and then you exit. You pass on the right. That's interesting. One of the weirdest things about driving on that side is, one, putting the car into gear is weird. We had to make sure to get an automatic. There are a lot of manual cars. You're driving in kilometers per hour, so doing that math and figuring out, I'm driving 100. Is that fast or slow? I'm not sure.
Does it feel fast?
Yeah, 100 is not fast. 100 is roughly 50 miles per hour. So it's roughly 2.
Gas pedal on the right, though?
Everything else in the seat is exactly the same. Gas pedal's on the right, brakes on the left, dashboard, everything else is identical. Weird thing about my car is it had a digital readout. The digital readout is in miles per gallon or miles per hour. So when I go into cruise control, it's giving me miles per hour, even though my speedometer doesn't have miles per hour on it at all. Now, a lot of the cars that we were in, just like our cars, have both. This one that I rented did not have both.
What was it?
I don't know. It was a small SUV. It was a large car for Ireland. And it was a large car and it was a small SUV. There are not big trucks. There are not big vans. There are not big cars there. Big soccer.
So do you
vans.
just not remember, or was it a brand like Opel or something?
It was. I don't know. It was something like. Yeah, I don't remember. It was Desperado or something. It was probably a Chevy something. I don't know. I don't know what it was. It wasn't a weird brand. I just am not a car person. And so the other. So we drove from Dublin to Belfast. Now, when you cross over into Northern Ireland, which is the UK, it's not Ireland, it's England. They use miles per hour, which is great if your car has miles per hour, which ours did not. And so that was also tricky. But the weirdest, the most bizarre thing to me, we drove in big cities that would have been difficult if we were not having to think through all of the traffic differences. But the weirdest thing is sitting in the right-hand side of the car. And I recommend you do this as next time you're a passenger in a car. Sit there and pay attention to where the front left corner of the car ends. Because
okay,
I had no idea where that edge of the car was. I know exactly where the front right is when I'm driving, but the front left, I had to drive through several parking decks. That was a terrifying experience because as I'm coming around, around the roundabout area, around the corner, I have no idea, no sense at all about how close or how far I am to hitting that wall or hitting other cars, and everything there is smaller. And so I had to go, in Belfast, I had to go up 8 stories into a parking deck and back down, and that was terrifying. It was a neat experience. It afforded us the luxury of, in Belfast, which is Northern Ireland, driving up to the coast, which is where a lot of Game of Thrones has been filmed. And we went to a place called the Giant's Causway. The Giant's Causeway is a natural, there at the Giant's Causeway, there are naturally occurring rock formations where they believe, and it's all just kind of speculative still to this day, that there's magma and lava underground that's meeting with water, and it's creating honeycomb patterns in these rocks.
What, are they rocks, or is it lava rocks?
They're rocks. It's rocks.
Okay.
But and so I don't know if the steam is breaking them up or what, but the rocks are in honeycombs. And so there's one section where a wall has broken away, and you can see columns of these rocks. And so each column is maybe this big round, maybe bigger than that, maybe this big round. They are hexagonal, and the column goes all the way up, but the column is broken into set pieces about this tall, all the way down as well.
So it looks like somebody laid up a bunch of pavers?
Yeah.
The idea?
Yeah, and it looks like you could just take one off and put it aside. And so this phenomenon is known to have occurred in 12 different places around the planet. This is the one that was first discovered, and so we're seeing this phenomenon, these rocks, but then we're also walking along the coast, get to climb to the top of the coast and you see exactly what you think of when you think of Ireland, the picturesque, like impossibly green grass, sheep, the sky is as gray as you think of, it looks like it should be raining at any moment, but it doesn't. Wind is blowing. And it's just, it was gorgeous. So that was, for me, that was the #1 highlight of the trip.
So go back to these rocks for a second.
Yeah.
Is it just columns, or is there more than that? Because you can't really see that they're hexagonal as columns, right?
So this place has been a tourist attraction for hundreds of years. Fishermen used to take people out there by tour. And so a third of the rocks in the place are gone. And so in one section you can see the columns that have risen way up high. The other section you're actually on top of them. And so and what was neat is they believe in the UK, they believe in responsible tourism, and so this place is completely open. You can climb on top of these rocks, you can look down on them. And so in the section by the coast, you're looking at these rocks, and I mean, they're stepping stones. They look like they are ladders or stepping stones that were put there on purpose. It is the wildest thing. And so you can climb all over them. There's basically lifeguards there to make sure people don't go into the water, because it's very it's coastal.
So you're looking out over this, and is it flat now, or is it? I mean, describe it, because I've never been.
So imagine the Giant's Causeway. So the myth is the marketing legend that these sailors developed, these fishermen that would take tours out there, is that it was created by a giant that lived there with his family. Is the one, he was building a bridge over to Scotland, and the bridge was destroyed, and so these these stones are the bridge going out into the water. And so they kind of rise up out of the water. There's you have almost like a pie wedge section. So you've got pieces that are in the water, and they kind of stone step up to a higher elevation, and then one section goes all the way back and up, and then it drops down where they've actually cut it away. They've cut a passage through these sections of rock. So you walk through, they call it the Giant's Gate. As you walk through, it looks like it was designed and built. There are these columns you're walking through that are probably, I don't know, 15, 20 feet tall. And so that's the height of what you can reach. From there, it drops down in elevation.
And again, so, the hexagon is what is the top of it.
Is the top. So imagine, you know the scene in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where you're not supposed to cross over the line, right? And they're stepping on the stones there.
Yeah,
the hexagonal
this is
stones.
after the penitent man.
Or, and so some of them fall away.
You walk on the name of God.
Right. And so imagine that, right? You've got these hexagonal stones. Some of them are at the same level. Most of them are offset by a little bit, and so you can just walk stair-step style all the way up to this 15, 20 foot rise if you want to.
You said a third of them are gone. Where did they go?
So there was a watcher there that was kind of basically they created a tourist trap, and they would sell them to places. Now the real tragedy is a lot of the stones were taken, sent over to the UK and Scotland, and were ground down and used in other ways. And so they were just it was a quarry. They were really easy rocks to load up onto a ship and take away, because of the way that they're broken up. And so that was a bit tragic.
Interesting.
But it's beautiful.
Could you take them? Could you take them and land and put on edge and build like a retaining wall or a wall with them? If they'd let you take off with a couple of them,
you probably could. They're relatively uniform. They're not perfectly uniform, but I mean, you look at it and you say, "Oh my goodness, that's a honeycomb." And so they're not all perfect, but they all, as they are
in their place, they all fit.
In their place, they're all built for that specific location.
That's crazy.
So they're all flat. Some have little bits of dips in them that collect water, but it was really, really neat. Another neat thing there is there's a bacteria that lives on the stones, and one of the things is you're on this coastal area. You think rising tides would be an issue, but the tide only rises a meter there, and so you can actually see this bacteria creates a white covering on the stones. Yes, and it pulls rust out of some of the stones that have a lot of iron in it. So it actually makes them rust. It oxidizes them and pulls the iron to the surface where it oxidizes. And so as you're walking, you see this red stone that has this white. It's a lichen, which said werewolves, is the type of bacteria on it. And so what's neat about that is it doesn't grow it can only grow where there's not water. It can only grow where it's not underwater. And so you can very, very clearly and distinctly see the tide level. So
that's cool.
Yeah. We expected to go and have that be like one of the pit stops we saw. We had a few hours. We thought, we'll go there. We'll go to some of the other locations where they filmed Game of Thrones. And we stuck there for 4.5 hours because you get to walk around. You can hike up the hill, climb 560 some stairs to the top of the cliff, where at the very top of the cliff, there's because of that they expect people to be not Americans, I guess, not stupid. There's no sort of railing or anything. It's just nature. And so you're up. I've got a video from the top of this cliff where we're looking down, and there's no guardrail. I'm 4 feet from the edge of this deadly cliff, and no guardrail.
So I don't know how hard it would be to add these pictures or videos. So how about this? How about you maybe post something on Instagram, which I know you never use.
I never use. I'll try to remember to add something to this video. If I don't, it'll be someplace. So from there, we flew from Belfast to Birmingham. We stayed in Stratford-upon-Avon, which is the birthplace and death place of William Shakespeare. So we saw the house that he was born in, The whole town is just like Mount Airy, or just like any town that has had a famous person, and that's the reason why they're on the map. It was just like that. And so lots of things there are honoring
the Bard. Is that what the people call him? The Bard.
Yeah.
Bill. We call him Bill.
Bill. Yeah. A lot of people are there. A lot of things are there honoring Shakespeare. We visited Warwick Castle, which is a historical castle built around 1060, and is still standing. It was central to a lot of history in England because it's central to the region. And so it's one of those things that when you look it up, you're like, I want to visit a castle, and it has a website, and the website feels very commercialized. Like it's got like a very Disneyland kind of feel to it, and so they're showing the archery lessons for kids and this and that, and so it took us a lot longer than you would expect to figure out, is this just a tourist trap or is this legit? So
is it a Renaissance fair?
That's the vibe that the website gives off. And so, which, I would have been cool with anyway, but thankfully, one of my coworkers' dad is from the area, and he said, I would go there in a heartbeat. It's like super historical and really neat.
So that's what all the Renaissance fairs are emulating then?
Yes, basically. Huh. There was very little Renaissance fair part. They have the world's largest trebuchet. Got to see that fire off. It takes, I think it says it takes 45 minutes and 8 men to load it, to fire. So got to see it fire once.
Firing big hexagonal.
Yeah, pumpkins. Yeah, and...
Pumpkin toss, that's cool.
Yeah. You go in and they've got like all of these rooms and things laid out, like just like any walkthrough historical visited site. So like you go into the Queen's bedroom, but one of the things that's interesting is because the history is so rich, the things that are there are real things. So it's like, this is Queen Elizabeth's mattress, and there are paintings on the wall. And we asked one of the guys, "Is this are these real or are these replicas?" He said, "No, they're real. I mean, you could just reach out and touch the oil on the 800-year-old painting if you wanted to of Henry VIII, right?" And one of the rooms that they said, this room was designed to make the women feel comfortable. It's a room with a lot of pictures and paintings of women in it, but then the big, huge portrait is Henry VIII, and
yeah,
that's really making them feel comfortable. So that was neat. And the last neat thing we did is we spent a day, the very last day we were there, we were able to run around London and just saw everything. We saw everything. We did 30,000 steps, saw everything, kind of just ran past, snapped pictures, and kept moving. I think one of the neatest things from that part is off the beaten path. We went to Greenwich, and in Greenwich they have the official keeping of the clock there. They also have the prime meridian, which is the 0 longitudinal line. And so this way is
like Greenwich Mean Time.
Greenwich
is, you were right there.
We were right there where Greenwich Mean Time exists. It lives. You take a step to the right, and you are plus 0.0003 seconds. You take a step to the left, and you're plus 0.0003 seconds.
What does the clock on your iPhone do?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're here. The clock just stops.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
One of the weirdest things there is the clock that they have is a 24-hour clock, which I've not seen. I don't know that I've seen any 24-hour clocks
Meaning
before.
the hour hand goes around
0 to 24. Or 0 to 23.
One time in a day.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so I'm looking at it. I'm looking at my phone, and it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the arrow's pointing towards the 9 o'clock. I'm like, what is going on? And it took longer than it should have to register what I was looking at.
So it shouldn't have been pointing at 9 o'clock.
Well, it wasn't pointing at 9 o'clock. It was pointing at 20, wherever it was. Wherever it was, they were not lining up. My expectation did not meet the reality of what the clock was showing.
17 o'clock.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
1700.
Yeah. So those were the highlights. We did a whole lot of business in between. Most of our days consisted of waking up for breakfast meetings at 7:30, finishing our meetings at about 11 o'clock at night, and then following up with stuff in the office, which is 5 hours off, until midnight or 1
So I told you would enjoy breakfast. Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy breakfast? Mm-hmm. So about the only pictures that Boy was sending me while he was over there were pictures of his breakfast.
Yeah. So
tell us about breakfast, Boy.
So Irish breakfast, Northern Irish breakfast, and English breakfast are all very similar. They all have the meats in high quantity, which is excellent. Irish breakfast was the best. It had different kinds of sausage. It had blood sausage or blood pudding, which is like a blood sausage. It had like Polish sausage. There was bacon, which is not bacon. It's thin sliced ham. It had
like Canadian bacon, as we would call it.
Yes, that's right. There were eggs. They had mushrooms, tomatoes, and they also had fish. Most of the places they had fish, and fancy stinky cheeses. Was great. Northern Irish breakfast was almost exactly the same. Not quite as much on the fish. It had more like a meat and cheese platter. And then they also had porridge. And one of the hotel we stayed in had porridge with a bowl of honey and a bottle of Irish whiskey and said, have some whiskey with your porridge. So I couldn't eat the porridge because of the carbs, but my coworker enjoyed the porridge because of the whiskey.
That's weird.
At breakfast, yeah.
So how about the language? Did you have any issues with the language?
It's English, so...
No, I know that.
No.
I'm aware of that.
No, we did not have problems with
no,
the English
not a single moment where somebody was talking... Because you knew the lift and the boot and all those things. Mm-hmm. The lorries and...
Yeah, we also stayed at hotels that tend to be fairly international. And as I mentioned on one of the last videos, I have a lot of friends that come from the region. I think I definitely had the easiest time translating Irish and English to American. I think for sure. Some of my coworkers would get caught up, especially with some of the Irishmen, and not have to get things repeated. Or there were one or two times where I was having to translate for them. Essentially, I never got lost.
Did you go to IHOP while you were over there?
No, I did. Shame. Is it? I did go to. We did go to a small. So I spoke at Cranfield University, and right across the street from Cranfield, which I didn't go to, I meant to, is where Alan Turing invented the computer, modern computer. There, but. While there, we went to a steakhouse, and we had some aged steak, which was weird. You get to go up to the meat counter. You sit down and order steak. They have the price list, and then you stand up and go to a meat counter, and you tell them what you want. You point at what you want and how much you want them to cut off, basically. And so you're choosing your portion size by where his knife is, and then he weighs it out, and that's what you end up paying.
Were you calling out measurements? Would you say
no? So I mean,
25.4 millimeters, sir.
No. I mean, you're just there and you say, I want the 28 day aged ribeye, and he picks it up and he said, okay, is this good? Like, yeah, that's good. A little bit more, a little bit less, and then he cut it and then would weigh it, and then
was it already trimmed, or did they trim it after they carve it? Okay,
no, it was trimmed. It was trimmed. So I had the steak there. But then for dessert, we got a cheese platter, which is very popular as a dessert alternative. Almost every place we went to had cheese as an option.
Dried fruits and balsamic vinegar, stuff like that.
Not so much of that. No, it was cheese, I think, for wine typically. But so my coworker and I got a 5-cheese platter, and we went through the list. And we're both adventurous. We both like fancy and funky cheeses. One of the cheeses. The only way I can accurately describe it to you is by sharing with you the nickname that we devised for it, which is dirty diaper cheese. I have never in my life had a cheese this funky.
So was it like your number 2 choice?
Yeah. We each had...
It was a McDonald's menu board cheese.
Yes. It looked like someone had just wiped up a McDonald's menu board and put it on the plate. It was gross. Okay, so it wasn't even just fecal matter that it smelled like and tasted like. But diapers, urine, and this is a weird thing. Diapers that have been peed in have a smell. It's almost like a baby powder smell that I think comes from the gel absorbing the liquid.
Modern diaper, sure.
It had that smell as well, and what I only imagine that flavor to be. It was so nasty. We each took a bite and then decided to go one more just to confirm, and it was so gross. We devoured the rest of the cheese. That one we left a big old hunk of it sitting.
Now you weren't eating carbs, but did they have bread with it or something?
They did have some bread, some crouton kind of bread. Didn't make it better. I tried it with that. It didn't help. It did not help.
Crunchy diaper.
It wasn't. Yeah.
With the toast.
Mm. So all in all, it was great trip. Flights were great. Back and forth. Jet lag is weird. Thankfully, coming home, there's not nearly much jet lag.
And you did something on the airplane you didn't think you could do.
Went to the bathroom, peed on the plane. Quite excited about that. It was the first time I've done that.
In the bathroom?
Yeah.
First time you've peed in the bathroom on a plane?
Well, I stepped foot in the bathroom. No, peed in the bathroom. That was good. Fit in the seat. Fit in the seat. It was good.
If by chance you're new to Markwood Men's Breakfast Club, and maybe you are, Boy and I have been losing weight. He's been losing a lot of weight, and I actually had to go back and find something to reference to somebody in a comment from a video we shot 3 years ago, and it was a stark difference from where we are today. It's funny, sort of like boiling a frog, where the frog doesn't notice the temperature's changing. Living in this skin, of course we notice that we've lost weight because we've had to change pants sizes, even shirt sizes. You didn't wear this shirt. You put this shirt on after I gave it to you while we were filming the video, and it was tight.
Yeah, it was like a skin tight swimsuit. Yeah.
And look at that. It looks like you're wearing somebody else's shirt. Boy.
Yeah. Thanks.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's been great. And so yeah, I for years now in flying have always been afraid of the bathroom, and also just flying in general. I was really worried about this trip because in the last 2 years I've been flying on Southwest. Southwest has a very generous policy for large travelers where you can purchase 2 seats in advance, but then after your trip they will refund one of the seats. And so I've been traveling with 2 seats, nice and spacious, and their seats are smaller than Delta's. And the last time I was on a Southwest flight, I tried to fit myself into one seat. It was very tight. It would have been impossible. Thankfully, on Delta's flight, I was able to do it with little problem. I mean, still I'm kind of, trying to make myself as small as possible.
You were on an aisle, so you could...
I was on an aisle. I actually didn't lift the arm up, though, for any of the flights on the aisle. So flying both there and back, it was fine.
Did you sleep on the plane at all?
Barely on the flight there. Not at all on the way back. Way back, I watched all the way through a show from start to finish. It's an 8-episode Netflix
You know
show.
what I did accidentally last night? I slept without my CPAP. I fell asleep and didn't put it on. Woke up having not slept with the CPAP. And my wife, Jandy, she commented on the fact that I wasn't waking up all night, and she said, I'm curious to see what your Fobit says. And for some reason, my Fobit has not been keeping track of the last two sleeps of my sleep.
Bummer.
I don't know why that is.
Sync it with your phone? Have you synced
I do sync it with my phone.
To see. So what I would tell you is I had a similar but different experience. I didn't bring one of the connecting pieces for my CPAP on a recent trip, and went 4 or 5 nights without it. The first 3 or 4 days I felt fine. The last day I was just dragging.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if there's a build-up to oxygen deprivation that occurs, or if, it kind of just depends on how you're lying while you sleep. But don't you know, it's an interesting test, and would be worth it at a certain point to go back and do another sleep study.
Oh, without doubt. Sure. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, I suspect we've gone long, and we've had some long videos here recently. That's not our plan. It just happens. But we'll wrap this up here, and we're going to continue to talk for next week's episode. But I missed you, boy. Good to have you back.
Me too. Yeah. It's good to be back, and we're both going to be busy the next few weeks, so it's going to be very little different from being out of the country.
I know that's true.
Hey, I am a fan of the Dark Twist.
I went through it.
You went into it, didn't you?
Yeah,
eventually. What did you think?
I'm done. Oh,
yeah, it burned real quick.
I've had it before, and I was surprised. Usually, when I've had this in the past, I think I've had it a little bit moister. I think the fact it's been in a Ziploc bag for a while, it's dried out a bit. And so it required more in my bowl than I'm used to putting in my bowl.
Gotcha.
But fine, smoked it to the bottom, so.
Great.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too. All right, thanks, guys. We will see you next week.
All right. Make it a great week.
Bye.